Screen share.
Chandan, you can start recording.
Screen sharing.
Screen sharing I will do, but you can start. Okay, I will start screen sharing also. Wait a second, just wait for a moment for the screen sharing.
Sure.
So we were doing this yesterday. This is the light falling in this direction, and this is our area vector dA. So we know the formula is. What is the formula for the pressure exerted by the light of intensity I?
I by C cos square theta into
1 plus R,
plus
I
R
by,
minus T.
formula is I by C cos square theta into 1 plus R, because it is opaque object. This is the pressure formula. Pressure into dA will be force dF. And I want to find dF along this force vector will be along which direction? All these are now like scalars here. This dA is like a vector. So dF gets its direction along dA, dA vector. No, along dA vector. So sorry, opposite to dA vector, obviously, because force will be on the photons, force is along dA, but on this it will be reaction of that. So it will be opposite to dA. Means the force actually, if I have to write in vector form, I should write in this way. Minus I by C into cos square theta into 1 plus R into dA, that will be. But I'm interested in magnitude wise, so no need to take this negative sign. But anyway, actually this will be the correct relation, because dA vector is this side, but we know force acting is this side actually. It is minus of dA side. So therefore minus sign is appearing before dA, and that is the direction of dF along minus dA. Is it okay? And this is just representing magnitude, this first term, I by C into cos square theta into 1 plus R. Right? Now, dF is along x-axis will be the net resultant force, because you know the reason for that, I think. Now I'm taking magnitude wise, so this also I'm removing vector sign here. It is magnitude wise now, and I want to find only x component. So I will take the component of dA also along x. Then the force will become along x. Then resultant, if I take I constant, C constant, cos square theta constant into cos square theta is not constant. Sorry, what am I doing here? Cos square theta is varying, obviously. To write this thing else. So I can take this thing as If I take a ring element here, this is theta angle here. Then on the ring element, on this ring element here, what will be the force applied? Let us say this dA represents for the total ring element. Then for this ring element, angle is cos theta everywhere. No problem in that. This is correct expression. But if I take dA can be written here as r square into d omega, and omega we know is equal to 2 pi into 1 minus cos theta. So I can write r square into d omega, or I can from d directly also we can write. Why I'm writing by d omega? I can directly also say that it is circumference is 2 pi into r sin theta. 2 pi r sin, sorry, capital R I should write because r is for reflection coefficient. Let it be capital R. 2 pi into capital R sin theta. 2 pi into capital R sin theta, that is this is capital R sin theta, into r d theta, that is dA. What will be dA along x? So dA component along x will be dA cos theta. If I do that, then I will be getting 2 pi r square sin theta into cos theta into d theta. Let us now get it I by c into 1 plus r taken outside into cos square theta. Cos square theta into 2 pi r square also outside, 2 pi r square outside. Then we are getting inside cos theta into sin theta d theta. Limits of theta 0 to pi by 2, because how many such ring elements I can take in order to cover the complete hemisphere? Because the force is acting only on hemispherical portion up to this place. Up to this place, the force will be acting in this part only, because here only the incident rays are falling. So in this this left hand side part, 0 to pi by 2 will be enough. By that I will be able to cover the entire, because I am covering in form of rings. So I will be getting then I by c into 1 plus r into 2 pi r square into sin theta d theta can be written, I think, d cos theta with minus sign obviously, and it is a cos cube theta. And I'm not interested in signs although here, because I already know I'm finding out magnitude wise only. But anyway, okay, for the time being I'm writing minus sign there. Then I will be getting a cos cube theta d cos theta. What it will be? Cos raised to power 4 theta by 4. I by c into 1 plus r into 2 pi r square into cos raised to power 4 theta divided by 4, 0 to pi by 2 with minus sign also in the beginning. That becomes at last I by c into 1 plus r into pi into r square by 2, I think. Right?
Yes, sir.
That is the force along x. Is it the net force along x? No, it is not the net force along x. Reason? Yes, it will become net force along x if I take it perfectly reflecting, because for perfectly reflecting mirror, for perfectly reflecting along this direction, along this direction it will be 0. Only along this side the force will be there. So this side it will not have any force. So definitely correct then if I take perfectly reflecting only in that case. Otherwise I have to take shear stress also. Have I taken shear stress? No. Why? This formula was applicable for the normal stress. So I'm finding it from the normal stress only. So resultant of normal stresses, or resultant of force due to normal along x-axis, resultant of force due to normal along x-axis is coming out to be this. Is it the net force? It may not be the net force if there is this part also remaining here. So if I want to find this part also, then what difference it will make here? What is the formula for that shear stress formula?
I by 2c into sine 2
remember it.
1 minus r minus 2.
I by c into I by 2c into
I by 2c into
Sine 2 theta
into 1 minus r.
1 minus r minus t.
1
minus r.
T is not there. Leave t. 1 minus r is enough. That is our f. Let us call it. What should I call it now? Wait a second. I think I should call it f perpendicular. It is along the normal, no? And then after that, I am taking the component of df perpendicular again along x. Similarly, here I will write another component now, which will be df normal. This was df perpendicular, or wait a second. Or I can write df normal along the radial line. And another is df tangential. Let us write df tangential here. I think I can use different colors. Why I'm using same color only. df along tangential is also there. This before that there was df along normal. But ultimately I have to again take there again components along x-axis. df along x will be actually df along normal into cos theta plus df along tangential into sine theta. Here this term here is only involving this part. It is like dfx first term. and there is another term of dfx, that is dfx second term. So it is first term of the dfx. Let us call it dfx1. It is fx1 first term. What will be fx2 second term? dfx2 integral will be giving obtained by I by 2c into sine 2 theta into 1 minus r into inside dA. dA value as same as before, 2 pi r square sine theta cos theta d theta. Let us write that 2 pi r square sine theta into cos theta into d theta integral. So we are getting it as I by c into pi r square into 1 minus r into what we are left with, sine 2 theta square, sine square 2 theta, I think, into d theta. Is it that or not?
By 2, sir.
By 2 is not there. 2 sine theta cos theta. Oh yes, by 2 will be there. Sorry. What is the integration of this term now? I into pi r square by 2c, or although I am thinking I have committed some mistake or what, because I am seeing a different answer coming here. What is 1 plus sine square 2 theta? I can write it as 1 minus cos
4 theta by 2.
1 minus cos 2 theta by 2.
4 theta.
Cos 4 theta by 2, sir.
which will give me pi term here, which I was not expecting, because then we will not be getting that result here. Wait a second, let me check once, is it right here, done or not? dfx1 is right only, it seems. Let me check this one again. dfx2 means I have to take the component along. For this one was formula for means tangential component. I think I should have written, I think at that time I wrote y, but I should have written normal and tangential. Y for normal and x for tangential. Let's see, let us see where is x tangential one. Tangential, this is tangential. I by 2c into sine 2 theta, you said right only. I by 2c into sine theta 2 theta into 1 minus r. So this was correct. I by 2c into sine 2 theta into 1 minus r. After that, multiply then by 2 pi r square sine theta cos theta, that is also correct only. 2 pi r square sine theta cos theta d theta. I think I missed something here. Oh, I missed something, obviously. I did not find dfx2. I found here df tangential, I found. Sorry. This I cannot integrate here directly. I was thinking, why am I not getting answer?
Into sine theta.
This is just a tangential component. Still, this formula was only for df along tangential component. But now I have to find out dfx second term. That second term will be again component of df tangential along this sine theta will come here, right? Because this is df tangential, but I have to see here this angle is 90 minus theta. So its component along x will be coming out to be df x2, this term, dfx2 term. That is this thing, df tau sine theta. This one I have to take here. So then what do we get now? C again, do it again. I by 2c done out, taken out. 1 minus r taken out. 2 pi r squared, no need to take out, or maybe taken. Okay, take out everything. Take out that. In fact, I will break it also into 2 sin theta cos theta. That will be better, because I'm noticing I will have extra sin theta left. So I will break everything in terms of sin theta cos theta. And then I will be getting how many terms outside? 1, 2 will come from here, from this place. 2 sin theta cos theta. 1, 2 from here. 2 into 2, 4. What is coming outside? 4 is coming outside. Pi is coming outside. R square is coming outside. What is left inside now? Inside we are left with this term we are left with inside sin theta cos theta from here, sin theta cos theta from here, and 1 sin theta this also there. This is df tau. This is 1 sin theta here also. So how many sin thetas we are getting? We are getting sin cube theta into cos square theta into d theta. Limits 0 to pi by 2 as usual. What is the result now? I by 2c into 1 minus r into why I'm writing it as 2c now, I can write it just I by c into 1 minus r into 2 pi r square into what is the result of this integral? There's a direct formula for this, I think, in mathematics. What is that? Can you do it or not? We can do it in another way also. I can write it as 1 minus, I can write 1 minus cos square theta, this thing here, and then
Cos
1 sin
square
theta.
theta, 1 minus sin square theta.
I can write 1 minus cos square theta into cos square theta into d cos theta, again with negative sign outside, because d cos theta will be minus sin theta. Negative sign outside, 0 to pi by 2. So now we are getting it as first term will be cos square theta integral. What that will be? Are you understanding? You can do or not?
Yes, sir.
Then tell me the result of integration now. Cos square theta integration cos cube theta by 3, and remaining is cos raised to power 4 theta. Cos raised to power 4 theta by 5 theta by 5. Then I think I am getting finally 1 by 3 minus 1 by 5, 2 by 15.
15.
Again not expected. Something wrong I am doing here. What am I doing? Wait a second. I bet 2c into sine 2 theta into oh my god, how many times I will be doing mistakes. Is there a cos theta here? What is dA formula? This is dA cos theta. I wrote dA cos theta directly. Oh my god, what am I doing? I should take dA. Should I take dA cos theta?
Yes, sir. DA cos it only.
DA cos it only, sir. DA you have to take it.
Why should I take dA cos theta? My god. This is dfn. I wanted to calculate dfx one term. Then I wrote it as dfn cos theta. I understand this cos theta comes from here. That's why it became dA cos theta at last. But now I have to write df sin theta, so it will be dA sin theta in that case, no?
Yes, sir.
Understood?
Yes, sir.
This will be dA sin theta here, right? Reason, see what is happening here. Again, let me say, because I only created this confusion. Now, some of you may not be feeling comfortable. See, this is df tau and this is dfn. I want to take their components. So why I took the component of df perpendicular, that is df perpendicular is in this direction. When I took its component, then I noticed I have to find its component along x. But that was dfn cos theta. Dfn was this term. In this, dA was complete dA. But when I took its component along x, then it became dA cos theta, which is dAx also. It became dA cos theta. But the next time when I will be doing that thing now, which one is that? Or you can think in another way also. This dA vector has two components. One component is dA along this axis, and one component is dA along x-axis. If I want to find the shear stress along x-axis, then I have to take area perpendicular to that. The area vector should be dA sin theta, not dA cos theta. Because I want to find out shear stress along x-axis, then the force should be, then the area vector should be along perpendicular to that axis. So here I don't have to take the component along the direction of the force. Here I have to take the component perpendicular to the direction of the force. Perpendicular to x-axis. So it will be dA sin theta. So let me go again there. dF tangential. dF tangential was 2 pi r square. This r into theta into 1 minus r into dA, that was dF tangential. But I wanted to now take 2 pi r sin, this dA is equal to, what is dA? dA is equal to 2 pi into r sin theta, that is the circumference, into r d theta, that was dA, which I can write 2 pi r square into sin theta into d theta. But I want now dF along tangential sin theta, because I want to take its component along x-axis, and I am calling it as dfx2. So then I have to multiply by sin theta, then it will become sin square theta here. Now let us see what do we get. Now, how many terms will be there? I have taken here, I think the first term.
Same as before, but 1 minus r.
Then I should write here sin raised to power 4 theta and here cos theta only. Right or not? No. Again,
Sine cube only.
let me check once again. See, this is sine theta. And one sine theta comes from here. One sine theta comes from here. Sine cube only. Sine cube theta only. And then one more cos theta, right? One cos theta comes from here. See, 2 sine theta cos theta, 1 sine theta here, and 1 sine theta after taking the component. Sine, sine, sine. How many sine thetas are there? 3. And how many cos thetas are there? 1 cos theta. Which I can write as d sine theta into sine cube theta. And there we are getting right answer now. What do we get? Sine this for 4 theta by 4. That is 1 by 4 at last. Which is equal to I by C into 1 minus R into pi R square by have I missed something again? No, right only. By 2.
By 2. We get independent.
I think say yes, right. That only I was expecting. Yes, right, exactly right. We got the same thing. See, it is independent of R. Main thing is I knew, because I knew already that it will come out to be independent of R. It is pi R square by 2. Notice now, above term here. In this term, and in this, if I add these two terms, dfx1 and dfx2, then net dfx will become independent of R, and that is equal to just I by C into pi R square. That's it. Which yesterday also I told you that we can say directly as well. At least for which case we can say directly, when it is completely absorbed. But even if it is partially absorbed and partially reflected, then also our answer does not change, luckily in this case. So we can just remember this thing only, that for the case of spherical bodies, answer comes out to be independent of whether it is partially reflecting or it is perfectly reflecting. Answer is the force along x will be same only. It will be obtained directly by this formula, I by C into pi R square.
Sir, where we use perfectly absorbed in this case?
Where we use perfectly absorbing, put
absorbed.
R0. Put R0, then it is perfectly absorbing. It is independent of R.
Starting only we can put no, sir.
What are you saying?
DF you wrote no,
What?
sir. D by C into, for both you wrote DF no, sir. DF and DF tau.
DF tangential, DF tau, yes. DF tau, what you want
In
to
that
say?
only we can replace R as 0 no, sir.
We can do that, yes. If it is perfectly absorbing, then we can do that. We can take this, and then again we can take this, and we can put all from the beginning. We can put 0. Obviously, we can put then why in this only? We can put here also 0, and then we have to put here also 0. Both places we have to put 0.
It's both places.
And then obviously it will be same result again.
Yes.
Because it is independent of R. For any value of R, it is coming out to be same force along X. Only for spherical bodies, not for other spherical opaque bodies only.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Chandan.
Yes, sir.
Main thing is that I
Sir,
don't need
once
to do all this.
how did we get area terms, sir?
How we?
Area terms, sir. DA.
Area term DA. Area term is simplest of all this. We are doing it from the last 1.5 year. Yeah, can't you see the vector of this here? I am drawing this ring here. Can't you see what is the area vector of this? This is R here. This is theta angle in between these two. So what is this, R sin theta or not? Then circumference is 2 pi R sin theta into DL. DL is R into d theta. Length of the arc. This element, it is this kind of element. So the length of the arc is DL. And this side it is a 2 pi R sin theta. Circumference into the
Yes, sir, understood, sir.
width of this. Okay. It is a common term. By now you should be learning it. Now also you have to understand it. And in the beginning, I know when it was taught for maybe for the first time in the class, at that time, I may have taken just 10 minutes only for explaining this. But once it is now, you should learn this, how many times, every time we have to devote 10 minutes on this only. Quickly, you should note out what is this area. This is equal to 2 pi r square into sine theta into d theta. Okay. Understood?
Understood.
Next.
Yes, sir. Understood, sir.
One thing here, I don't need all this. I don't need all this, but okay, I told you. But I really don't need all this, at least for the case of sphere. But just to do it properly, I went that way. But at least for the case of perfectly absorbing case, I don't need to do all this. Why? If it is perfectly absorbing, then the rays are striking in this way, right? Rays are striking in this way, this way, this way, this way, and perfectly getting absorbed. If these are perfectly getting absorbed, then I will say whatever momentum these rays are carrying here, this momentum is finally becoming zero. So what is, and I will assume a ring here, and I will see what is the momentum passing through this ring per unit time. That momentum will be also falling on it per unit time, and that will be becoming zero per unit time. So what is the momentum passing through this per unit time? We know momentum is equal to E by C. Let P by T, E by C by T. P by T is the, what is the change? What is the force? Force is equal to P minus 0 change in momentum per unit time. So that is P by T. That is the force, right? Initially momentum of these which are striking in time T. Let us say these are striking in time T. These were carrying momentum P, and finally that momentum here, when it lands here, it becomes 0 in T time. So P by T will be like force, and that is also equal to E by T into C. But I can write it now as I into intensity is I here, and I into perpendicular area of this I can take directly. This area only I can take. I need not take this area. So I can take simply I, or even if I take this area, then also when I will take I dot dA vector integration, then I will be getting at last total area vector of this hemisphere, and which will come out to be equal to this ring area only, which can be written as pi into r square. That is I into area. We can write energy as intensity as I into, what is this thing we're saying? Power per, it is power. Power is equal to I into area, right? Power is equal to I into area, right? Intensity into area is power. Divide by C. So what is force coming out to be? I by C into pi r square, and there we go, answer. But valid for which cases? Valid for the cases of perfectly absorbing, when the final momentum is becoming perfectly absorbing case. When the final momentum is becoming 0, this is our answer, and we can do it quickly, orally, instantaneously. But if it is reflecting also, then yes, then we had to really prove it. Then we cannot directly say. Therefore, I proved that way also. And now, good thing is that for both cases, it is coming out to be same. So we don't have to even remember. We have to just always do by this method only, because just one idea we have to keep in mind, that for the spheres, it will always be same. But it will not be, it may not be valid for other bodies like elliptical bodies or some other bodies, paraboloidal or some other shapes. It is valid only for the perfectly for a sphere, spherical body. Then it will be valid. Okay. For others, it may not be valid. And for spherical bodies also, when the rays are incident, all the rays are coming from distance, and these are parallel to each other. Rays are parallel to each other, and then they are falling on it. Okay. Then only it is valid. It may not be valid in all the cases. If intensity is also varying radially outwards, if intensity is varying radially outwards, I suspect again, will it be valid or not? It may still not be valid. I will have to check it. And I think what was df tau sine? This was it, right? So sine. What was the formula again? Let me write it again once again. Formula was I by C into sine cos square theta into 1 plus r. That was for normal, F normal, df along normal. This is not df, this is pressure on normal into dA. But when I have to take x component, then I will take again cos theta. That is one term, and other term was F by I by C into sine theta, which will be 2 sine theta cos theta into 1 minus r into dA into sine theta. It will become sine square theta. If I add these two terms here only without That is what Chandan was saying, that we can add these directly and then we can integrate. Yes, true, we can do that also. I think Chandan, you were saying that only or not?
Yes, sir.
Chandan, that we can do. So what we are getting if I add them directly means I, rather than taking separate integration, I could have done this way also, that dfx one term and dfx second term. Both terms we add together, dfx1 plus dfx2. That will be single dfx and we can integrate. Yes, we can do, definitely we can do that. What are we getting by this way? 1 minus r, 1 plus r. We can write it something. dA
First term
taken
no
common,
two.
I taken common, C taken common. What are we left with? 1 taken common.
First
Then
term
we are
no,
left
there
with
is no two.
No two is there. In first.
so 2 number is not there in first.
Yes, sir. In
Are you
numerator.
sure?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I by 2
Okay, then fine.
to theta.
Okay, right. That 2 is not there. Then it is just sin square theta, cos theta, and it is cos square theta, cos theta. Then we are able to add quickly, and we are getting sin square theta plus cos square theta term. Then we are getting just cos theta into dA. That's right. And next term, what is the next term? Next term is minus r. Minus r with minus r into dA into sin square theta, cos theta, and that is, I think, 0. That second term is becoming 0. No, wait a second. What is it becoming? Second term is becoming like this: I by c into dA into r into sin square theta, cos square theta minus sin square theta, cos square theta minus sin square theta into cos theta into dA. That is the second term. I don't have to write dA 2 times. So we notice that cos square theta minus sin square theta is
Cos
is it
2
right or
theta.
not? Can we prove that it is coming out to be 0 quickly without having to do much work? If we are able to prove quickly it is coming out to be 0, yes. Otherwise also, Chandan said it right. It will be easier to integrate, I think, if we add the terms first and then integrate, rather than taking 2 terms and then start integrating. It will be easier if we add the terms first and then we integrate. Because we can clearly see here that this term is equal to just I by C into total area along x-axis, which will be directly written as I by C into pi r square. So it is almost that much easy as we have done orally. That way also we can do this. But the other one, this will take some time, I think, to prove that it is coming out to be 0, but we can still prove it easily, I think so. Yes, we can do that. 1 minus sin square. How will I do? I will do it in this way. This is a dA also I have to write something. dA now I have to open, I think so. What is dA? dA is equal to, okay, you can do it now. I'm leaving it for you already. I don't want to waste time on it. You can do it easily and we can, but yes, this was also a good way to do. Next we have some questions are there in which this photoelectric effect, experiment, again, I want to go back to that and I want to see what modifications we can have in photoelectric effect experiment. In this also I have one question although. Whenever there is a case of, okay, wait a second, perfectly absorbing case. Perfectly absorbing cases. If I have perfectly absorbing cases, then whatever irregular shape of body is there, if it is rays are incident on it, then here shadow is formed, some shadow is obtained. Some shadow is obtained. And that shadow is, whatever area the shadow is having, if rays are falling like this and they are casting some shadow, then the formula directly can be obtained. If this area of shadow, let us say it is A, and shadow is, this plane is perpendicular to direction of rays, and the rays are coming from uniformly in all directions. That is the I incident ray, and C is I. Then we can directly write I into A upon C as the, for perfectly absorbing cases, when A is equal to 1. Then this will be the direct formula as we did last time also, I by C into pi r square, because if I take a sphere, then here area found will be pi r square. That we can always apply. This will be the force along the direction of incident ray. This will be the force along the direction of incident ray. If I take, how to obtain that? Means quickly we can obtain in this way. I will take a plane perpendicular to the direction of incident ray and I will if somebody has given me the shadow of the object in that plane, then that shadow area is, let us say, A. Then that area is important for us, and the remaining things we don't need. I into A upon C will be the answer. Okay. This thing can be asked to for other shapes for which shadow is easy to find out. For which cases we can find out shadow easily. I think maybe you can take a cone placed like this. What will be the shadow of a cone placed like this on this side?
Pi r square. Area of base.
Pi r
Pi r
square.
square.
So what will be the
Base.
then same force on it? Same force on it also. Similarly, I can ask you for a cube maybe. Now it will be square shaped
A
for the
square.
cube. Means for those cases for which shapes are easy to find out, I can ask a case of cone only, but this time I am placing it perpendicular to the direction of incident ray this way. Now what will be the shadow cast here on the wall?
Triangle.
I think triangle shadow, and that triangle will
R
have
into
height h, height of the cone, and radius base will be 2r, 2r and height h. Then r into h will be the area. So again we can find out quickly, ai into r into h by c will be the force on this cone along the direction of incident ray. Never forget it. Means it may have some extra force. It is only fx along the direction of incident ray. This is x-axis. Obviously, now when rays are if it is perfectly absorbing case, then I think that only. Then they will have no force along y. If it is perfectly absorbing, then that only will be the force. But for other cases where it is reflected and something happens, then the force will be somewhat different. Okay, that is somewhat difficult to calculate. I will tell you that example also, but not now. Maybe after some time when other important questions are already done. We can do it also for the perfectly reflecting case, but that is really tough, and you need a lot of imagination to understand that. Therefore, I'm not taking it now. But other cases we can think of. These cases we can think of maybe if I have a mirror, parabolic mirror. If I have a parabolic mirror and some point source is placed on the focus, and from there the rays are falling on it in all directions, obviously, and then these are reflected back parallelly. You know already this will be reflected back parallelly. Power of the point source is P. What will be the force on the parabolic mirror? Can you find it out? If aperture area of the mirror is given as this is a parabolic mirror with the maybe, okay, maybe you think this way, that this mirror lies up to the focus. It is not beyond that, and up to that we have to find out the force. Thing like that. So I think we can find out, because if I know that it lies up to focus, I can determine the radius of the this area. I can determine of the paraboloid.
Sir, once again repeat it.
Question is just finding out the force on the paraboloid mirror, nothing else. With the source at the focus. Force on the paraboloid mirror with the source at the focus. But paraboloid mirror, I am telling that I can give it the shape of this area, what area it is for the paraboloid mirror here. I can give it. Can you find it out? This is the focus here, and in the focal plane only. In the focal plane only, I am taking one this circular area. Up to that, the paraboloid ends. Paraboloid ends up to the focal plane. Understood what I am saying here? It does not exist beyond that. There is no parabola after that. It is only existing up to the focal plane. Then what will be the force acting on this parabolic mirror? Assume it to be perfectly reflecting. Can you find out?
Yes, sir.
Tell me the answer, because answer we can obtain very easily, quickly, and I will give you the equation of the parabola. Equation of parabola you want, you can write. Give me some equation. It is along x-axis, let us say, and
Y square equal to 4x.
Y square we can write as equal to 4
4x.
into a into x. Let us say this is the equation of the parabola with vertex at
Origin.
Perfectly absorbing.
So what will be this radius of this circle up to which this parabola extends? We can find it out because we know this is the focal length, and focal length means it is a. If it is a and I put x equal to a, then I get y as 2a. It is 2a or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. 2A only.
2a only. Then tell me the answer now. The power. What is the power of the source which is placed at the focus? Power of the source which is placed at the focus is P. Power of the source which is placed at the isotropic point source. Isotropic point source is placed at P. Find out the force acting on the paraboloidal mirror.
Perfectly absorbing.
Perfectly reflecting. Rays are also shown. What are you talking about? Perfectly absorbing. Really? Rays also I am representing here. Perfectly reflecting mirror. Why would I call it a mirror if it is a absorbing? Very easily we can obtain it. Very easily.
Two-A by C.
What I was saying too. First of all,
8I
I is
by
not
C
given here.
pi
Here
S
P is
square.
given power. But what? Say it again.
8I by C pi S square.
I is not even there. You are giving me answer in terms of unknown. Nobody has given you I. C we can always write because we don't need. C is the speed of light. It is universal constant. We can always write answer in terms of C, whether it is given or not. But we cannot do that for I. I is not given. P is given here. Power.
P by C. P by 2C into pi R square. Pi into 2S square.
P by C.
P by 2C.
8P by C.
P by C, P by 2C. Two answers. Let us check now what will be the right answer. Okay, because it is isotropic point source, so 50% of the light will go inside, 50% will come outside. You understand? 50% will be going to the, and 50% will be coming out. This part you understood? 50% light will be inside, 50% will be not striking the mirror. Only 50% will be able to strike the mirror. So the 50% light which is striking the mirror, that is reflecting like this here. So now let us see what force it can exert. The force that it can exert will be, I can find out if I know what is the momentum incident and what is the momentum reflected. And momentum incident, momentum reflected, I can find out easily. What is the change in momentum along x-axis? I have to find that only. What is the change in momentum along x-axis per unit time? That is the main objective. So, how to find out the change in momentum along x-axis? What is the momentum coming out? That is very easy to write, tell, I think so, because we can say, let us say, P by 2 is the reflected energy coming up, energy per unit time which is coming out is P by 2. Energy per unit time coming out after reflection. Energy per unit time getting reflected will be equal to P by 2. You understand? Because 50% is getting reflected only. And the energy per unit time is power, so power reflected is P by 2. Now, we also know that intensity has relation with power, and that is equal to I into, this is a radius, let us say 2A radius. So I into pi into 2A square. I into pi into 2A square. Upon 2. Right or not? That it is. What is the relation of this with? Power is always intensity into area. C has nothing to do with this. Force. Now we will see. What force do we need? If I have to give the momentum to them equal to, or I have to provide them the intensity I in this direction. What is the force required? Means assume that the photons were initially at rest. Obviously, completely hypothetical scenario, but we can think that way also. We will assume that first, what is the change in momentum while they are going this side, then what is the change in momentum while they are coming this side. So I can think as if 0 to momentum P they are gaining. So what is the momentum which they are obtaining? 0 to P, let us say. Then I can write here intensity is equal to, what's the formula for intensity and momentum? P into
P by
what is it?
power by area.
Power by dA. How to relate it with force? Mainly we want to find out the force. How to relate it with force? dF.
dp by dt.
dF force is equal to dP by
dt.
and momentum
by
P
T.
we can write as E by C. Energy incident, momentum incident. It is momentum reflected this time. Momentum. Then what is it coming out to be? P by C. So if I want to find force here due to the reflected portion, then it is coming out to be not complete force. It is only due to reflection, but due to incidence also there is a force. Means I am breaking. See, on the mirror, the force acts due to incident and due to getting reflected. Both times there is a force acting. But I am breaking into two parts. I am finding out separately force due to incident ray and force due to reflected ray. This time I am interested in only in force due to reflected ray because it is easier to do that way. What is the force due to reflected ray? Force due to reflected rays, the change the momentum gained by the reflected rays P, and these all are getting in the same direction. So I can just write dP by dt. That is P I can write as E by C. So I am getting power reflected. It is power reflected only. This is power reflected, not the total power, because I am finding out force reflected here. Power reflected here, or R only, PR. I am just saying PR only. It is enough. PR. So it is PR by C. Then what is it finally? It is equal to, I don't need I also. Why I am bringing in terms of I? Sorry, I don't need that. I can just write this way only. So this is enough. P by 2C. But that is only reflected portion. What about the incident portion? Now forget the reflected one. Just focus on incident one. Incident one. What is the momentum carried by the incident one along x-axis? Indirectly, I am asking you this question, that if I have a point source here, due to this point source, which is sending rays in all possible directions uniformly, what is the momentum transferred in one direction, along any one direction, along x-axis maybe? What is the momentum transferred along x-axis? Now think about it, how to find it out. If you are able to find that, then we can get answer quickly. Now nothing is left after that, because once we know what is the momentum carried by it per unit time along minus x-axis, then that will be the force due to the incident part. The net force will be force due to the incident part plus force due to the reflected part. Some students answered already, I think this one. Somebody was saying P by 2C. They were focusing only, I think, this part, but they were forgetting that during incidence also there is a force. Can you say? Hello. Hello.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
I think I lost connection, and I was telling you
Yes,
after
sir.
some time I realized nobody is. When I realized nobody is responding, then I understood that I have lost the connection already. I don't know for how long I lost it.
P by 2
I have solved it here.
Yes, sir. Up to this what?
You asked us to find reflection
On
incident
hemisphere.
part.
On hemisphere,
Yes, sir.
I told you hemisphere also or not?
Screen share.
Because for hemisphere it will be same as for the parabola. So for hemisphere we can find this way: I by c
Sir,
into dA
screen
cos theta, I
sharing
by
is
cos
lost.
dA element.
Parabola not
Screen sharing
complete.
stopped, sir.
Sir, screen gone, sir.
Screen sharing is
Stop.
No, parabola is not completed yet. But oh, you have not listened what I was explaining. My God, really unfortunate.
Screen sharing.
I was explaining from so long, and now also gone.
Sharing also not.
Screen share not there, sir, now also.
Did you listen that I was explaining something about hemisphere at that time or not?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Oh my God, and it took so long.
Up to
If
P by 2.
somebody finds like that, you can give me somebody can give me a call quickly, because I will not realize. No, for me screen appears as it is, and I'm just teaching, and I'm after some time I realized that nobody is responding. Then I thought, and in your class otherwise also you respond very less. No, I told to derive, but after some time I started explaining myself when you were not responding. Then I thought you are not getting answer. I should explain myself only. But you were this part you understood or not? That the reflected ray is giving us this force due to the reflected
Half of
rays,
the power.
P by 2c.
P by 2.
P by
Yes,
2c.
sir.
This you got or not?
Yes, sir.
Due to
Yes,
reflected
sir.
ray.
Yes, sir.
What is due to incident ray? Now I am saying that you assume the process is taking place in two steps. Assume the process is taking place in two steps. Once the photons are getting absorbed and these are getting retransmitted, as long as the change in momentum is same, the impulse imparted to the this thing will be same. So I'm just imagining as if it is a two-step process, absorbing separately and then reflecting separately. Although it takes place instantaneously, but we can think like that. There is no harm in doing that. It is equivalent to that. So therefore, I'm breaking it into two parts. One part only for reflection, one part only for absorption. And while it is absorbing, I told you before also, while it is absorbing, then it doesn't matter what shape we are taking for this. It doesn't matter what shape we are taking for this. So I could have taken a hemispherical shape also. If the photons incident are being absorbed by hemispherical shape, they will also give us the same result as it is being absorbed by the parabolic shape. Why so? Because the momentum incident per unit time, along x-axis on hemisphere and on parabola is same. Momentum incident per unit time on along x-axis on parabola and on the hemisphere it will be same. Is it okay or not?
Yes, sir.
Therefore, I am finding out only for hemisphere. For hemisphere, it is easy to find out. Why? Fi is equal to I by C into dA cos theta. I want to find force only along x-axis. Then I am getting, I think I'm not even using that. I don't need that. Sorry. Why I'm calling unnecessarily confusing from hemisphere? It could be parabola as well. Then also I can say this thing, I by C into dA cos theta, and that will become I by C into dAx. That will be I by C into total area along x. And total area along x is equal to I by C into pi r square. R is here. Here R is equal to whatever that was 2a. I don't need although that one also. Because I can cancel out these terms here. Then after that I'm putting intensity. Yes, I needed it. I needed that hemispherical concept. Now I'm needing it again. See. If I take like a hemisphere, then I have one advantage that I can write intensity as power upon 4 pi r square. And if I don't do that, then also I can do answer. Then I can get answer in another way. Then I will write it in terms of solid angle. Answer I can still obtain, I think so. But anyway, converting into hemisphere was advantageous. That intensity quickly I can write as P upon 4 pi r square. And pi r square will be multiplied. So what is the force along because of the incident rays along x-axis? Force because of the incident ray along x-axis is coming out to be, it is coming out to be equal to P by 4C. The net force will become force due to the incident ray along x-axis plus force due to the reflected ray along x-axis. Net force due to the reflected ray is only along x-axis. So that is FR or FRX, same thing. That is the net force finally. Adding these two, we are getting 3p by 4c. That is answer. Are you getting this now?
Yes, sir.
3p by 4c. Final answer is 3p by 4c.
Sir, why you took hemisphere now?
Yes.
You told
For statements also. For parabola and hemisphere.
I told.
Parabola
Your voice is not clear. Voice is not clear.
Why we can take
Loud.
parabola as hemispheres? The reason he.
Reason is same because the reason is if I say a ball is going that side, a ball is going this 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 side. Let us say these are balls. And finally somebody is catching the balls. What is the change in momentum? If you already know somebody is catching the ball, however he may be catching the ball, change in momentum will be incident momentum. Final momentum 0. So change we can find out. So it depends only on the incident momentum. Why does it matter who is catching and where he is catching? Whether he is catching by such area or he is catching by parabola area or any other area. He is finally catching it. I am assuming it to be absorbed. Okay.
SRS.
When finally it is getting absorbed, so where does it matter? I am breaking it into two parts. I am assuming it is getting absorbed once and then it is getting reflected. If I do that way, it is a much of a simplification, very much simplification. If you don't understand its simplification, you can once try the other method. You will understand that how complicated that will become. And there is no harm in doing that. It is not like kind of a trick only. It is perfectly logical also. Don't think that it is just kind of a trick and we are getting answers somehow, but it should not be there. Not like that. We can always do that. In any case, overall, what I need, it is like a closed box for me. It is like a closed box for me in which I am observing two things. What momentum I inserted inside the box and what momentum I am getting out of the box. Then I can find out from that what is the change in momentum inside the box per unit time. Understood? Say something. Right. Very good. You are understanding these things. Then next, let me think if I can frame some other question like this. Okay, I think we can go on and there will be no limits. So I can keep on making different situations, different shapes. Ideas are same always. So we can get the answers. These are enough. And one that difficult question is still pending that I can take some time if time allows. Otherwise, no need. This question if incident on the cone, but getting reflected. So that will be slightly tough. It will be tough to visualize also. It will not be easy to visualize. It is a tough problem. So it is a good problem only. It will be tough even for teachers. So therefore, I don't want to take it now. I can take it after some time, if time allows. Before that, some other ideas I am having in mind, especially for the photoelectric effect. We have taken less number of questions only so far. Let us think about, and some questions we can take this week. I am reminding you, we can take this week some questions of. In fact, you try to get these questions on Young's double slit experiment. Revise those concepts once. Why we can ask Young's double slit experiment? Because we will ask them due to the de Broglie wavelength. De Broglie wavelength we know is equal to h by p. So they will say that electron is gaining energy or gaining momentum equal to p because of some accelerating through some potential difference. Then where we will obtain maximum number of electrons in the screen at the center or at a distance, what distance from the center we will obtain the electrons, maximum number of electrons on the screen. Such questions are likely to be asked this week. So that's why I'm recommending to revise a little bit of this, what is that, Young's double slit experiment also. Okay, it will be helpful for you. One way it will be helpful because you will be revising in the concept, and it will be kind of revision also for you, and otherwise also they can ask questions based on that in this week also. Next. Yes, I want to I have given you an idea of this photoelectric effect experiment, but I just went for complete basics only. Let me try to twist that experiment slightly, little bit. There are several ways of twisting that experiment. Means I can make some changes. So let us modify that experiment, and then we try to answer it. Let us say there's a light source here in this place here. This is the light source, and this light source has a light of intensity, whatever power p, and that is making rays incident on a sphere. It is a sphere, and what will be the charge on the sphere if frequency of the incident wave is given as f, threshold frequency is given as f naught, and radius of the sphere is given as r. And what else you want? Is it enough? And source is at a large distance away from the sphere. D is very, very large as compared to r. This source is having, and the intensity of light you need, I think you may need, intensity is I. Intensity of light rays falling at this place, it is I. Photons, incident of photons falling on it will be given as I. F is the frequency of photons. F naught is the threshold frequency. Distance of the source from it is very large, so that the light rays will appear to be falling this way. Means light rays will appear to be nearly parallel to each other because these are falling from a very large distance. Okay, diagram I am making like this only, but these are coming from a large distance. It is mentioned here in the question. So question is find the charge. Find charge acquired by metallic sphere. Answer it. One question.
Q equal to V into 4 pi.
How are you answering it? Can you say it? Can you say once again? What did you say? We can answer it by
Q equal to V into 4 pi epsilon naught R.
First of all, in the beginning, when the first let us say some photoelectrons are emitted here in the beginning, then there is no problem. This can just go on to infinity. But after some time, this will stop going away to infinity. Reason is, it will acquire some positive charge here. As it acquires positive charge because of the emission of electrons, then that positive charge will pull the electrons back. Means the electrons will not be able to achieve the, we can call it escape velocity after some time. But the energy, even the maximum energetic electron also will be finally coming back. It will not be able to go away. Then we will say the charge on it will remain nearly constant. It will be fluctuating slightly, electrons going away, then coming back down, but it will be kind of equilibrium and charge will be nearly constant after some time. So how does that remain constant and what happens there? Let us see once. It will be K into Q by R will be the potential acquired, and that will be acting as a stopping potential. If it has to act as a stopping potential, then I can write E into V naught. You understand what I mean by it has to act as a stopping potential? Means, let us say it has potential, it has here potential V naught, and finally at a large distance away it is zero potential. Then when it at infinity it is zero, obviously at infinity it will be zero only. Then the electron, the maximum kinetic energy electron should come to rest at infinity. Means the kinetic energy of the electron is kmx plus initial energy is minus E into V naught because it has negative charge, potential energy. And finally, mechanical energy should become zero at infinity. At infinity, kinetic energy is zero. At infinity, the potential energy is also zero. Then we can find out from here relation is kmax is equal to E into V naught, or V naught is acting like a stopping potential because this is the relation for the stopping potential. And this will be equal to K into Q by R. But kmax we can write as, I think HF is the energy of the incident photon minus work function. Work function can be written as also HF minus HF naught. If you have learned all the formulae, then you can say it quickly. Otherwise, you will still be confused how I'm getting this. Have you learned this or not? Work function is equal to
Yes, sir.
HF naught. Then this is equal to E into K Q by R. And then what we want to obtain? Q was our Q we wanted to obtain Q. So Q is coming out to be equal to, I think, H into F minus F naught into R divided by E into K, where K is also equal to 4 pi epsilon naught. So we can write in that terms also 4 pi epsilon naught into H into R into F minus F naught upon charge on electron. That is answer. That is the charge which it will acquire. I don't need intensity. Why was I giving it? Do I need intensity here? No need. It will not depend on intensity. Intensity will be of one use here. If I ask another question, if more intensity of light, then it will acquire this final charge earlier. If less intensity of light, then it will take more time for it to acquire this final charge. But anyway, the final charge acquired will be this only. In IIT, once they ask this question, that after what time the photoelectric emission stops, I don't agree with the answer given by them, although, because photoelectric emission, according to me, never stops. What happens even after attaining the stopping potential also? Can we say photoelectric emission stops? No, because still the electrons are getting emitted. In fact, they still have enough capability to go up to almost approaching to infinity, but from there only they will return back. Because what is the condition we are using? We are using the condition that the maximum kinetic energy of electron will become zero only at infinity. It means they still can go to very large distance away, and then only from there only they will return back. So how can we say that the photoelectric emission stops? I don't know, but IIT gave this answer. Probably they wanted to say only that they wanted to think like this, that when stopping potential is attained, then the photoelectric emission stops. Because in our normal photoelectric experiment, when we say that the
Reaches anode only.
then when it is returning from there only and it is not able to make the current
No
flow through this, then we say there is no photoelectric current. But even though there is no photoelectric current registered, I still will not agree that photoelectric emission is not there. Photoelectric emission is there. Only thing is we are not able to detect it because the electrons are just coming back before reaching the anode only. So somehow I don't agree with their answer. I don't know. In fact, IIT also may do this thing that they may ask the question again, and then at that time they may give a different answer. But anyway, last time they gave this only, that they assumed that when the stopping potential is achieved, then the photoelectric emission stops. Although I really don't assume it to be correct. It does not seem to be correct. Anyway, you should go through previous IIT question also once, and you can get idea what kind of questions they are asking. Some other question, let me think of. Means ideas will come automatically. See, we wanted to modify the question here, and we ended up getting something like this, right? We can think of some other scenarios. For example, let me frame something. This is our normal apparatus. In this apparatus also, I can do some changes. There's a source coming from, this source of light is coming from here, and this is a vacuum chamber, and this is light is entering here. And next, these electrons are now going that side. I can change the area, or I can turn this area. I can rotate it. And as I'm rotating it, I will say I am rotating it with the angular velocity omega. Okay. And angular velocity omega, I'm rotating it. And then I'm registering here. I'm registering here the photoelectric current. Then I may ask you that the photoelectric current was already obtaining saturation. What was the current obtained already? Saturation current was already flowing there. But just after we started turning it, what happens to the saturation current versus time graph? Will it be like this? Or will it be like this? Means I can ask such question now. Already it was saturation current. Normally we say that saturation current does not change. But will it change now? Yes, it will change now. Why? Because number of photoelectrons emitted will become more. Why it will become more? Because the energy incident is changing as the angle is changing. As the angle is changing, then more number of photons are able to get incident on that area, and as a result, more number of electrons will get emitted. So obviously, this question can be asked. So we expect that the intensity will be increasing linearly if omega is varying linearly. If omega is varying as a function of some parabola or something, then I expect this intensity to be changing in the similar fashion. Not similar fashion actually. Wait a second, sorry, not similar fashion, because it does not depend on omega only. It depends on cos of theta. And theta will be written as maybe, what should I call it? I can call it something, I have to exactly find it out. Okay, let me frame it as a question only, then it will become good. You try to do it yourself. So let us give some plate here first of all, and let that plate be circular plate. For easiness, I'm giving you a circular plate here. This is a circular plate of radius r, and rays are incident obliquely on it initially, These are incident obliquely. And other apparatus, complete apparatus is there, but I need not make the diagram of the complete apparatus. Okay, wait a second, I will make it minus, plus. So already there was full saturation current because I am giving the potential enough here, and that too supporting potential, which will try to eject the electrons, try to support the electrons which are ejected to go in the forward direction. This is the saturation lattice. Now, in this particular question, vacuum chamber is already there, that is existing. And I started turning it. About which axis I should turn? First, I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'm turning it about this axis here. It is rotating about this axis. And or I can say that angular velocity of this is perpendicular to the plane containing the rays. Not sorry, rays are not in one plane. Wait a second, not the right thing to say. What should I say? Rays are falling from this side. This is one direction, and okay, direction. We can say like this: direction of rays. Let us say XY plane. Rays are in which plane? Rays are in XY plane, but angular velocity is perpendicular to that plane. That is along Z axis. We can think angular velocity is along Z axis. About the diameter, I mean rotating it, but it is rotated in such a way that angular velocity is along the Z axis, while the rays are in the XY plane or parallel to XY plane. Rays are the direction of rays is in the XY plane. Is it okay? Direction of rays is in the XY plane, and the angular velocity of this plate is along Z axis, and also it is rotating about a diameter. It is rotating about a diameter, and it is along Z axis also. Let's say this information here. Initial angle we need to know, I think so. So initial angle of incidence of rays was given maybe theta. What was the initial angle of incidence? Theta. Now you try to answer it. This much is enough. What you have to find out? You have to find out how the saturation current varies as a function of time. Find saturation current as a function of time. Assume, meaning one thing, that quantum efficiency does not depend on the angle of incidence, although it may depend. But I'm assuming that assume that quantum efficiency does not depend on the angle of incidence. Now you answer it. Quantum efficiency is constant, does not change. That is our assumption. Plot IS versus T graph. Initial current is given as I naught. Find out IS. Initial current was I naught, let us say, and find out such current as a function of time. Initial saturation current was I naught when angle of incidence was theta. One more thing I have to tell here. Otherwise, it will become wrong question. So let me clarify that thing also. I will assume that the space charge remains constant. That also you assume. Otherwise, some of the charge may get accumulated here and that may change. Space charge remains constant. Assuming space charge remains constant. Are you there or I have lost you again?
There, sir, we are there.
Okay, right. Continue then. I'm giving you 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes. Getting now? It is not that much taking also.
Proportional to cos theta minus
Hello?
omega t. Sir.
Yes, simple only. Just that only. It will be simply proportional to.
Cos theta minus omega t.
Yes, we can say that. Because okay, let me write it down. Intensity is constant, so we know I into area. What will be the area in the plane? It will be quantum efficiency eta. Quantum efficiency eta into number of photons emitted per unit. Sorry, number of electrons ejected per unit time. That is the current. Sorry, what am I doing? Current will be this only. Saturation current will be any time number of electrons ejected into charge on electron upon time, and that will become equal to eta into E into number of photons incident per unit time. But I want to find number of photons in terms of intensity and power, etc. So I will get that by this relation. We know that power incident is equal to number of photons incident upon time into H into F. That is power incident, right? And from there, power incident upon HF, we are getting that is equal to NPH upon time. But power incident has another formula. I intensity into area, I dot A. So initially, area vector is this side, or this side also we can say, and I is this side. So angle is theta between them. So I can say initially it is I into A cos theta. I is intensity now, I into A cos theta. So what do we get then?
Eta I pi r square. Eta I A cos theta E by HF.
Cos theta I can write now as theta initial, theta naught minus
omega t E by
that
HF.
Upon this is what should I do? P by HF is equal to this, right? This and this upon HF also, right? Upon HF here. Upon HF is equal to IS. And area is equal to here pi r square. Intensity. Cos theta naught minus omega t. This whole was equal to. This whole was what here? If I write initially I eta pi r square cos theta naught upon HF was initial current which was given I naught. If it was given I naught, then I can write IS equal to I naught by cos theta naught into cos theta naught minus omega t divided by cos theta naught. It is valid only magnitude wise because photocurrent will not become negative. Even if it is reversed and it starts rotating from other side and it is coming, then also it will be same only. Assume the contact is made in such a way so that it is allowed to freely rotate. We can make such contacts. This will be the relation. Okay. That is the answer at last. So how to plot the graph? If I have to plot the graph only, cos graph. Starting with at t equal to 0, we are getting it as I naught. And after that it is decreasing or increasing? Increasing. Cos theta minus omega t will be like this. And then it will start decreasing. Then it will become 0. But then it will not. It will start increasing again, like something like this. It will be cosinusoidal graph like this. IS versus T graph, starting from I naught, and after some time it will be increasing. Reason is because while I am rotating it in this way, then more area will become exposed same area is exposed, sorry, but I should say that a more incident ray will be becoming normally incident. The angle of incidence will decrease. As the angle of incidence decreases, we expect the photocurrent to increase. So something like this will happen. Something like this, assuming the space charge remains constant. This is one question that I thought. Let me frame another question, something I can think of. One question was coming to my mind, but I am not able to frame it properly. I'm just thinking about it. If I have a closed chamber, and in that chamber, if I have a point source here, so that is difficult. So these are the kind of questions which they asked in this week, right? Have you started doing the question of SCV or not?
Yes.
Doing already, done already. Don't leave a single question of SCV. Starting from examples to objectives to exercise, every bit is important. Up to exercise, every bit is important. I have seen somewhere question of photoelectric effect asked in this way also, that some photons are being ejected, and after being ejected, at a separation, some gap is there here. So there was, and some magnetic field is inside. Question was that it should not reach anode. So why will it not be able to reach anode? And the reason was simple, that if it will return back, if it returns back, then how will it be able to reach anode? Why it will return back? Because of the circular path that it is following. But in that also, although HCV has given one answer, but unfortunately that also I don't agree with that answer also. HCV has given answer by assuming that photoelectrons are coming out perpendicularly. But I don't think it is a principle that photoelectrons should come out perpendicularly only. I think they can come in random direction outside.
Yes.
It is not required for them to just come perpendicularly out only. I believe so. And if they can come in any direction outside, then according to me, what answer HCV gave, that is not correct, because some may come in this way also. HCV gave answer, this should be equal to the radius of that, and radius we are able to find out by formula m into v by qb. And how he found q, we know it is E, charge on electron. B, we know magnetic field was given to us. Mass of electron we know, into velocity of electron we can find out how, because we know that when the photons are coming by HF frequency, then HF minus HF naught, HF minus HF naught, or HF minus phi, HF minus phi is equal to k max, which I write as half into m into v max square. So I can get that maximum possible velocity which that electron can have. So from here, whether they give work function or they give the threshold frequency, whatever they have given, we can find Vmax. After finding Vmax, we can get the maximum possible radius which it can have. And that distance between the cathode and anode, if it is greater than that, then this will be able to stop. Photoelectric effect will not, this photoelectric current will not be obtained. Even though they have tendency to, means the electrons could reach there, but now it will not be able to, it is not possible in this case. Photoelectric emission is not possible. Okay. So this kind of question was there, but now there was no external EMF by the way in that case. If external EMF is there, then that is a different scenario. There was no external EMF. And again, we are assuming that there is one charge at a time and there is no space charge in between. Otherwise, again, there will be a more complicated situation. But even if I make all those simplistic assumptions that there is no intensity is less, as a result, one electron or two electrons are ejected at a time. So the electrons are not interacting with each other, which are ejected. And we don't want to register any photocurrent, then still we have a problem here. The problem is that this radius he is giving as this distance he is giving as r, but according to me it should be 2r, because the electron which is coming out incident in this way, that will finally make a 2r. That will have 2r distance up to the other anode. So this distance gap between should be greater than 2r if we don't want to register any photocurrent. Okay, that is again, this is my opinion. Next we can think of, right now these only are coming into my mind. If I find some questions, I will tell you right now, because I'm not having anything here. Whatever comes to my memory, or if I can frame myself, those questions only I'm giving you. I don't have any books here to support with me, although I will see if I get some new questions, I will tell you those. Okay, but I think these are enough. I have already discussed so many things. And what about de Broglie wave? Are you comfortable with that? I told you to remember those constants. Have you seen those constants here or not? Have you seen those constants or still not obtained till now? You can use calculator also and you can get. Use calculator and obtain for yourself only. That also you can do. But obtain and then learn. Okay. But yes, after obtaining, we will verify here in the class. We will discuss, because if somebody is obtaining wrong, then you will learn wrong only. Don't do that. So after we will obtain, then we can verify and we can remember those. I had one book, and it is in your book. Do you have integrated or not? In integrated book, those constants are given already. Or maybe in advanced objective also it may be there, but I'm not sure about that. But in integrated, it is definitely there. If somebody is having integrated book, you check there. Okay. Okay, so I'm ending it now, and time is also over. Remaining